Welcome back, everyone, to another SaaS Connect 101. We have Simon Bouchez from Sharework today. I cornered him because he has a really good story around how he was a salesperson at SAP, but found revenue from the partnership channel. And everyone's trying to hit revenue KPIs from their partnership team. This is SaaS Connect 101 from the Cloud Software Association, where all the SaaS partnership leaders are. If you don't know about us, come join. It's free. cloudsoftwareassociation.com. We have a bump in Slack community of over 2,500 people and a lot more beyond that. This, I think is a very pressing topic for a lot of us in partnerships. And so, please fire away questions, Q&A, and in the Q&A section, and we'll get to them as fast as we can. The website was cloudsoftwareassociation.com. That was the first question. And I'm Sunir Shah, the president and founder, and also CEO of AppBind, appbind.com. I can tell you my social security number later, but cloudsoftwareassociation.com. I love Q&A. That's great. Thanks. All right. So with that, we're going to throw it to you, Simon. We have a lot to get through. I love you put together a pretty impressive materials for this. So let's just get into it. So you were at SAP. You were a salesperson. Partnership is revenue. What was the story there?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm super happy to be with you, Sonia. Thanks for having us, and thanks to all for joining this webinar. I hope it's true that we have put together some slides, but we'll try not to bore you to death with slides and try to keep it real and down to earth. So yeah, you said that I'm a sales guy. That's true, but I'm also above all an entrepreneur. So I founded the first HR tech company right after university, actually. So this was my first job back in 2009 after the crisis. So I'm definitely in the business of launching companies when there is a global crisis. So that's apparently what I do. And this first company was a recruiting product, a SaaS product. And with no fully bootstrapped, so it's worth mentioning because we are taking a different path with Sharework now, so fully bootstrapped and profitable from day one. And we have grown this company until end of 2016. And what we have built as a product was a way for companies to post jobs more efficiently online from their HR system to a variety of job boards and social networks and so on. So inherently in our product, we've been building literally thousands of integration downstream with sourcing solutions or job boards or whatever, and upstream with a bunch of ATSs for those that are familiar with the HR tech space or HR solution. And quite frankly, I wasn't very deep into partnership as a go-to-market strategy when we started, but very quickly along the way we realized that the more integration we had, the more opportunity to go to market, to identify leads, to co-sell with this integration partner would come up. So that's how we have structured an approach, but without a team, quite frankly. So we ask our sales team and salespeople and sales management to engage with partners directly without having a proper setup from a partnership standpoint. And yeah, it has led to great results for us. Always the largest deals for our organization, the best leads, and the best, pretty much the best everything. But I was always frustrated that it wasn't scaling as efficiently as other marketing automation efforts that we had going on, or simply cold calling, or anything we could do to reach out to customers and to keep growing. So long story short, and fast forward the end of that story and leading to SAP. So we got acquired by one of our partners, actually, which was that happened to be the biggest one, SAP SuccessFactors, more specifically the HR product purchased by SAP. I think it was in 2012 for a bunch of $1 billion. And this acquisition was came through the partnership because we had some really great relationship with the product team at SuccessFactors, with the sales team on the ground in Europe, in France, and other countries in Europe. And ultimately, they realized that maybe acquiring a feature like ours could be a good added value and fairly cheap, because we were a 100 people company, 10 million AR. So comparing to the 2 billion business that SuccessFactors was at the time, then it was an easy decision to make. And we joined SAP early 2016, and I spent a few years there. And I wasn't involved in partnership per se, but I was involved on what they call exec sponsorship on large deals. And basically, all these deals, they were tied to partners, right? So we had to work with partners. We had what they call foxes to have informations. We had, a constellation of players in our ecosystem around us. And I really learned how you can leverage that to sign multi-million license deal in the SaaS business. So it was, great learning experience. And all of that combined, and the willingness to and the craziness to start another business led to Sharework end of 2019. So that's kind of in a nutshell, that's kind of the story.
I'm going to drop a hard question right off the top. So one of the interesting things you mentioned was, I don't know if you caught on this yourself, but you're talking about relationships and how that worked. Partnership leaders and marketers are fundamentally the team you use for relationship marketing. That's whenever there's a relationship marketing tactic or strategy, that's where the partnership team comes into play. Whereas sales, although there's a relationship component to relationship selling, right? It is a different kind of beast. They're more about deals and transactions when there's different values. So when you started working with these partner teams, because they're giving you access to closing the deal, was there anything that surprised you about, or the things that you need to do to help them align with the sales motion?
You mean the partnership team or the sales team?
Well, I guess let's start with the partnership team first, because most of our audience are partnership team, because it's a different mindset than sales. A lot of them are, they're terrified of ruining their relationships, because they need them, but they also want money, and that's where the sales team comes in. So there's a little bit of a dynamic there.
Yeah, so I totally agree. And actually, for my first company, we didn't have a partnership team per se, so we tasked the sales team to do that. And to your point, it led to great outcomes and great deals, but also led to very complicated situation because, by definition, salespeople, they are very transactional and they go after what can contribute to hitting quota and to closing a deal. They don't think about kind of sharing back or sending back information to partners, because it's just about closing a deal, identifying a great opportunity. And precisely to your point, I think that's where the partnership team plays a very crucial role, and that's why the product we've built is designed for partnership team. But I also think, and this is something, and this is kind of the topic of the conversation. Actually, I think that whether we like it or not, partnership team are here to support sales team, just like marketing is and other function in the organization. And obviously, in partnership, you have a lot of things and skills that you need to have to strengthen and make sure that you have good relationship with partners, to ensure balance, to ensure also security and compliance in the relationship you can have. You can be involved with the product. So there are a bunch of things that you do. And frankly, the thing is, most salespeople, they don't care about that, right? This is just what you have to do because that's how you generate good activity and good information. But I think what's the missing link is how to engage as a partnership team properly with a sales team that doesn't care about what you do, and accepting that to some extent it can be absolutely normal, right? When you're in sales, you don't really need to understand what the marketing team is doing to generate leads or to create content or whatever. What you care about is will it help me generate more pipeline and hit my quota? And I think the ways of working and the relationship between marketing and sales have been complicated in the past and are improving because there are more and more tools and ways to kind of, communicate and to have a very positive dynamic between the two. And I feel that this is what's happening between partnership and sales. And more we see partnership folks that are super engaged with their sales team, and that's something that is really transformative because this is not what we have always seen over the past 24 months. We have been in this business. At first, we talked to many partnership folks that were kind of hesitant on how to engage and what to do to serve sales team properly. And now there is more and more maturity. So I think that's really interesting because it demonstrates why they are needed, the partnership people, and B, it actually impacts the top line for the organization and it helps salespeople. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters to us. And I think to most of the most of the community.
So, like on that vein, like you mentioned marketing automation and running campaigns. Some of this, partnership people do naturally, but bringing in what a sales campaign would look like instead of partnership, maybe uncomfortable. Like, what did you do at SAP? Like, what are some examples of campaigns you ran to make this, like, make revenue happen? Because I think it's hard for people to visualize exactly what am I supposed to do? What's the project that I have to stand up? But you had some pretty good stories. So, like, what are some things that worked while you were there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna use not an SAP but a multi-posting example. So we had this huge HR solution as a partner. It wasn't SAP actually, but we quickly realized that we had a common footprint in France, UK, and Spain, right? So and I realized that actually by talking to the CEO of this other company. It was a pretty good business, like 100 million ARR. And we realized just by talking that we had at least 24 common customers that were pretty big one for me and pretty big one for him as well. So that's where we realized that maybe we were not, thinking deep enough on what could be done and the type of relationship. We had this product integration was working well, but it wasn't helping us, neither of us actually generating opportunities. That's actually the first time I did an account mapping exercise with someone. So we started just brainstorming and trying to establish what are your top net new name you're trying to bring in this year. What are mine? And obviously we had the same, right? So what can be done? Who do you know here? Who do I know there? And we took almost a full day just to go through that exercise and to identify accounts. And at the end of the day, what I've done is not just go back home and just resume my activities. I actually sent a note to each and every individual in my team to say, hey, we have 3 open opportunities. You have 3 opportunities, and you can work with this sales rep at this partner organization because it's actually on their target list for this year. They are super engaged. We have the CEO connection in place, so we have trust. We have the product integration. We have a good story. So now you should engage. Make sure that you bring value as well. Make sure that you help them, because in the 3 deals there is one we are well positioned and we have one. So you should help them, and they will help you on the other 2. And we found a balance point. And frankly, for this year, it represented 15% of our revenue just in 1 year. This partnership drove 15% of our revenue. So it was a great outcome, and the first time for me that I really implemented a so-called account mapping or partnership strategy with someone, and it was super beneficial, mutually beneficial, actually.
I mean, we can go on and on, but honestly, don't bore us to get to the course, I think, is my mantra today. Like, you have, I did push you, and then you really came back with some great materials. I mean, I don't know, would you mind going through this deck? I think people really want to just understand, like, we're talking at a high level. I think people just want to see it. Like, what did you actually do? And how do they do it? So, I mean, I don't want to just share this deck afterwards. Would you be open to just switch into lecture mode? Let's teach us.
Absolutely, Sunir. I would be happy to. So let me quickly pull it up. Hang on. I'm not familiar with Zoom. It's like I'm working on Zoom all the time. All right. So we have a deck. Obviously, we'll share it with the audience after the session. Hang on. I'm gonna make it.
That was the plan, but this is so good that I just let's just do this instead.
All right. So we went through the background. So just to give folks a high-level view on what we have done and what I find the most interesting and fascinating in this world, and what we can achieve collectively as a community with account mapping and sharing information between partners. So we have roughly 2,000 companies that are now in our network. So it's growing, I would say, half between EMEA and Europe. As you can tell from my accent, I'm originally from France and based in Paris currently. But so we have 2 legs with US and Europe operation. But the most interesting and a few high-level stats that we outline there is when you look at the data, when 2 companies are connected, we have access to a bunch of data, obviously, and we can create some interesting stats. And there is this idea that we had when we launched this product that selling to a partner customer was in fact a really good go-to-market strategy, because you have a good story to tell. It's likely that they are addressing a similar market segment, so probably their customer fits your ICP. So they are highly qualified, if you will, regardless of the potential partner engagement you may have on deals. And what we found is, on average, the win rate of our users when they sell to a partner customer, and again, this is regardless of the partner engagement, is almost 70% better than on average for the organization. So it really shows that not only that, the deals are bigger, twice as bigger, and the leads that you can generate from account mapping converts 100% better. So it's really proof points and data points demonstrating that when you work with partners efficiently and you have access to this information, it will impact the top line. It will deliver revenue, and this is actually something you can show to your sales leadership and you can explain, because many folks would intuitively agree with that, but not necessarily have the data to support that assumption, if that makes sense.
We were just having this conversation in the CSA Slack community a couple of days ago. Someone was looking for this data about how do you prove the value of partnerships to the revenue people at the company, and this number's actually improved in the last 10 years. Like I think partnerships have really come to fruition, I think, because the value for the customer is so much stronger. And it's great that you put these stats out here that people can use. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and actually, I think the most important takeaway for me is when we talk to our users and to people in partnership in general, they primarily think about what can be done when engaging with partners, right? Because this is normal. This is what you do, right? You connect with partners and basically you engage with them, you provide intros, you collaborate, you exchange information, you build product integration, business cases, you name it. But at a high level, what's the most interesting for a SaaS sales organization is to know where to put your effort. How do I reduce my CAC ratio? How do I make sure that I go after the right leads? How do I make sure that I'm working on the right opportunities and at the right time with the right speech and value prop? And I truly believe that not only partnerships and ecosystems are a great way to kind of engage with others and to work on deals very proactively, but it's also an incredible source of data just to refine, rethink, and almost redefine your go-to-market strategy at a high level. And this is really transformative in the way, especially SaaS companies in the context of tech partnership can think about the way they go to market. So I won't bore you with the product, but basically, what we do is we connect companies and they can plug in their CRM, and you can create your network, and then you generate data. So we have a bunch of different features to ensure security, compliance, obviously, and then to make sure that you can share what you want to share and not share what you don't want to share, obviously, because we truly recognize that this is not a one-size-fits-all exercise. This is something that you need to be able to customize, but the general idea is there. And again, this is how we have acquired most of the network, and that's how we also learn along the way with partnership team.
This is the one, but on the secure compliance thing, that's one of the great things about using a tool like this is that first you're in Europe, so already you're like GDPR from line one of your code. Is everything is GDPR compliant.
No PII, zero PII in our product, so you can't exchange PII.
Yeah, and this is the whole thing. This is why you need tooling, because otherwise you're going to get blocked. But now this opens the door for you to have these kind of collaborations with partners. That's why you need account mapping. Yeah, and please bore us with the product, because I think I still don't think people can visualize what account mapping really is, like a lot of people. So it's okay, because I think it's a totally new thing. It really is. It's a relatively new. It's only like 2-3 years old. Like, this is a concept. So if people see it, I think people will get it.
Sure, I'd love that. So if that's okay, Sonia, maybe I can take a very practical example. I have a couple, and maybe to illustrate, I can quickly show you how it looks, even if this is not.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see it. It's better to be concrete, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe just before I dive in and show a concrete example, I think the one thing I wanted to touch on very quickly is the way we think about how partnership team can obviously leverage our tool and account mapping as a concept, but also should think about engagement with their sales internally, because we spend a lot of time thinking and discussing the partner engagement, as I mentioned, but I think there is not enough process in place to truly involve the sales team, and not only involve, to contribute to the sales team results and helping them hitting quota, recognizing that we are a support function to the sales team, and it's super noble, right? And you asked me what I learned at SAP. SAP, they say two things: either you are building product or you are selling product. But if you are not an engineer, you are not necessarily a quota carrier, right? You can be contributing, but at the end of the day, you are selling product, right? And that's the spirit and the mindset I think that we can embrace as a partnership team to really provide value, not only to sales team, but to an entire organization. So very quickly on this, I think when you think about sales teams, they have very simple needs, right? They don't need complicated things from anyone. What they need is good leads, high quality leads. It's stating the obvious, but when I'm a sales guy, I'm receiving a list of 1,000 crappy potential account I could go after, then I don't even want to open the file, right? Or I don't even want to go to the Salesforce report, because that's it's a waste of time. So I'd rather do whatever I was planning to do today. The other thing is I want help, right? I was assigned a portfolio and I want to open more opportunities, because the more pipeline I have, the more chances I have to reach quota. And ultimately, the last thing, obviously, is I want to win more deals. So it sounds stupid, but it's worth reminding everybody that everything you do and you provide to salespeople that are not directly and obviously contributing to these goals, it's not that they don't care, right? But it's somewhat irrelevant, right? If there is something else that can be done that is impacting one of these three things more directly, then they won't help you. So typical example, I gave my my personal experience, but if you want your sales team to help partners, because we know that as a partnership organization you have to maintain balance, then it's an ask, right? And there is no reason why they would do it, quite frankly. So this is on you to make sure that they get enough incentive, enough value from the team, that they actually want to help and support, right? So there are a bunch of ways you can do that, but it's really important to keep in mind.
Actually, other on that note, we did have a talk earlier last year from Freshworks and Sign Easy talking about how they were doing it. And the innovation Freshworks had is they just simply did a trade. You want 10 leads from our partner team, you have to provide 10 leads. Simple. Salespeople understand that because it's like simple. I mean, it's not like they're dumb. It's just they're busy, and if you simplify for them, it's easy for them to score, right? And then they can put it into their process.
No, exactly. And it's worth reminding, because the more this industry grows and the more complex the processes get, we tend to lose sight of the fact that these are simple needs, and if you really pay enough attention and listen to the sales team, and that's the first step I strongly recommend all partnership leaders to do, is you need to understand what they need, what they expect from anyone wanting to contribute and help and support the sales organization being successful, right? And I'm not sure we all do that, quite frankly. Even as the CEO of a company, or as a marketing leader, or as a partnership leader, how much time do you spend with AE, with SDR, with CSMs, actually asking what moves the needle for you? What are the situation where I can help? And understanding that will help us all grow as a community and in partnership. Then the other aspect is obviously, how can I collect the ecosystem data? So that's where tools like ours, but all the other processes and engagement you may put in place are obviously contributing. And then lastly, and probably the most important part, how can I combine one and two and actually send stuff that are valuable and provide information that are actionable and useful, right? So that's, I don't want to, it's a little bit obvious for some folks maybe, but I truly think that, getting back to the basics and making sure that we cover these all the time and efficiently and kind of comprehensively would be a big improvement.
I love this slide, by the way, and thank you for putting it together.
Yeah, it's
It
It's the
sounds
SAP, it's the SAP DNA, like, death by PowerPoint type of slide with like way too much content, I guess. But we thought it would be.
but it's all in one slide. And so if people are looking for a map of the territory, like what do I do against these 3 KPIs and against what stage I'm in? Like this
Yeah,
is people don't know like what tactics were working. So I mean, it's all in one place. So I
yeah.
don't know how to lead through 20 points, but I'll leave it to you.
No, I'm not gonna take you through the entire slide. I think people can read after, and I'm happy to answer questions offline if I can. But maybe let's stick to the generic leads example, because I find this one a little bit kind of unusual. We don't see many partnership organizations thinking about how they can create leads, net new leads, accounts that are unassigned, untouched, and that have high potential and high propensity to buy. So if we use our framework, I mean, it's quite simple. Do you actually know by talking to marketing to understand the ICP really, really precisely, or potentially the ICP, the future ICP of our company, if we want to enter new segments or build activities in new geos or with new products? Spend time with SDRs. What they. I had a very interesting conversation with an SDR at one of our users, and I'm doing some research, because every time we engage with a new user, I'm trying to talk to the sales team as well to see how we can actually deliver value. And just by talking to one SDR, she told me, "Hey, actually, I know we are connected with about 30 partners, but I have 3. My pitch is perfect, right? So every time one of my lead is using one of these 3 products, it makes an amazing difference for me. Like it's when I see them in my pipeline in Salesforce and I go on outreach, they are my go-to leads. They are the ones I want to work on. I have all the email templates. I have everything I need, and I know the demo by heart, right? And I'm so good. And this is the type of insights. If you realize that as a partnership leader, then it's super easy to say, hey, I've identified actually 100 leads that exactly fit that context and that description, and I can feed them back to you. And I know you're going to take them on, and I know it's going to lead to great outcome because you're already convinced, right? You're sold. I'm providing you with the right information. So you asked for a demo, so you're going to get it, Sunir. I'm sorry about that.
Don't apologize. I'd force you to do it.
Yeah,
I want to learn it too. I've never used account mapping before. This is also secretly for me, but for me, like, I'll tell you why. For me, so I tried doing this before the age of account mapping, and it's really, forget the data compliance issues. It's the problem was how do you even set up the conversations with people? Because what is the story you tell? And in my head, as a partnership person, because I don't do sales, as soon as I get into like email sequences and whatever, I go super salesy. It doesn't work because that's not the right thing. But what you're saying here about your story about, when I see these partners like Salesforce or whatever, the reason is, why do customers buy more in a partner story? Because they don't care about each individual product. They care about the whole product solution. They just need to solve the problem. Customers follow use cases and the data. They want to see it all working together. They just need communication between the different halves, of the story, right? So they can put it together in their mind, right? And and communication is the key to solving all problems, right? So it's that coordination and making it simplifying for the customer. It makes it work. So seeing the product in action, I think will help get people over the hump of like, what is this?
Yeah, and it's true. And to pick up on that, to get back to my example with the SDR, I mean, actually, there is this fear, when we talk to partnership team, that salespeople, are going to go crazy and start calling all the partner customers, saying stupid things and kind of messing things up and breaking the relationship. But actually, this is not what we see, right? If you provide things that are actually valuable and the demo flow is good and the value prop is good for the end user, I think everybody wins. And you don't even have to say, hey, you can call these 100 leads on behalf of partner A. This is not the point. It's more, we have identified 100 leads that are a great fit, and they also not only a great fit for organization, but they are a great fit for you, right? In the way you can position the product. And I don't know how many people on the call have done cold calling activities. It's super hard to do, right? So the one thing you need to do is you want to have is leads that you feel comfortable with, and that you know in spaces you know, with context that you're aware of, and that you can easily manage and convert, right? And this is something that we often forget, right? How hard it is to do that, and nobody wants to mess with any partner, right? And frankly, I don't think anyone cares. This is really about, generating new opportunities for the organization, right? So I'm not going to do the entire demo. Obviously, the basic idea is you can invite partners, connect with partners. So all of this is fake data, fake partners, and fake companies, with a great typo on the connect.io, just to for the joke. Anyway, so you connect with partners, and at a high level, the idea is you have connected the CRM. You can define a bunch of things. What are the customers you want to list here and potentially make available to partners? What are the prospects, and so on and so forth. You can also, and back to my point, understanding the ICP and understanding what matters to your sales team and your organization, you have a way to really define the strategic accounts for you, so you can quickly get to it, right? So we all know that probably in each and every CRM sits thousands, if not millions, of accounts. Some are junk, some are great, some are average. And the question is, how do I get to what's relevant and what's the most important? So we have designed a feature where you can very quickly define the most important accounts and leads and targets for your organization. So that's a quick setup. And once you're done, then basically you have you have access to your data with partners in several ways. So you can have high-level stats on the overlap. So to my point, on my example with my my former partners, the CEO of the HR company, this is exactly what we've done, right? So it took us a day to come up with the list and numbers. Here it's fully kind of accurate and real time, and respectful also what you want and don't want to share. So really, it's showing what should be shown, right? And then once you are happy with that, you have an actual account mapping that is available to you and your partner, from which you can start working, extracting information, depending on the use case that you want to address. So speaking of use cases, back to my point on lead gen, because I think that's an example that might be interesting. So we have designed the application to work like a spreadsheet, right? Even if the data comes from various CRMs, and it works like any spreadsheet, because even if everybody hates spreadsheet, everybody works in spreadsheets. So the theory is everybody should be familiar with such a process, even if we are trying to make it more adapted to this exercise. So here you can very easily say, I want to let's say look at accounts that are unassigned in my organization, so no sales, where I have strong partners that are not customers. If I do have customers that are unassigned, this is really not a good practice. I don't recommend it. So prospects that are unassigned, and very quickly you get to the list. And yeah, I might have
actually on this question, Simon.
Yeah, sure.
Gabe Caldwell from FormStack has a question like on what stage to approach targets. So he says, asking which has more value to partners in your experience, mapping existing accounts, like I guess those are post sales, and then expanding them, or mapping the outbound target accounts. I guess existing accounts could also be those in your pipeline. So I guess it's pre-sales and post-sales accounts. There's 3 stages: targets, like in the pipeline, and then post-sales. Which ones are better to work with partners on?
Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't say there is a definitive and kind of blanket answer to that question. Obviously, I think it depends on what you want to accomplish as an organization and what kind of go-to-market strategy you have. So to put it simply, what we see is we have some users that are really kind of selling to the SMBs, right? So they don't really have time to engage with partners very deeply, right? So it's not necessarily about identifying common customers or common opportunity for co-selling or joint selling motions and so on and so forth. This is more about the data. So exactly what I'm showing here, what they want to do is, okay, I'm connecting with, let's say, 20 partners that are also targeting the same market segment. The market segment is huge. There are hundreds of thousands of companies. And I know that every time one of these hundreds of or thousands of potential customers are one of my partner customer, they send me a super interesting signal. I know there are good leads and good target for my organization. So in that case, I would recommend sharing an extended list of prospects and making it at large, as big as possible when you connect with partners. If you are more targeting the enterprise and large accounts, then obviously it's more about focusing on the largest deals for your organization where partners can move the needle. Connecting reps would be potentially the go-to process. So in that context, common customers and opportunities to customers, mapping that out would be my recommendation. But again, I think that with tools like this, the point is you don't have to make a choice anymore. You can start building the account mapping, and then you have a bunch of filters to really get to the subset of information and accounts that really matters to you. So here, for example, I've identified a bunch of unassigned prospects, so leads. Typically, nobody's doing anything on these, and I happen to have. So in that case, it's only an info or 20 on which I have a strong partner presence. And also in the tool, we do give you how it has similar context has historically impacted your ability to sell. Has it positively impacted your deal size, the win rate on opportunities, and so on and so forth. So you can quickly score these unassigned leads, and once you're happy with that, then you can generate you can download the CSV and very quickly send this information back to an SDR, for instance. Hey, here is 20 leads, high quality. Here is the link, and you have the Salesforce ID on each and every lead. You can quickly consume it and take ownership and start making calls and sending emails. But it can also be something else we have seen is we have identified not 20, but 2,000 leads that are high potential. So in that case, let's start a very smart marketing automation or ABM campaign from the tool we're using. Just to see we can warm them up before we assign them to SDRs. But you have, here is the report. Yeah, and you have a report very quickly, and you know why, who they're working with, and you can share it. You can see how it is, why you are thinking these leads could be a good fit for your organization, and you're all set, and it's easy to digest. You can easily import them in your CRM because there is the account ID. And and then it's up to others to kind of take actions on it. But at least what you have done is providing something that is quickly and easily actionable.
So there's like a meta question around all these, and Sarfaraz Ridan has a similar question. How do you convince an SDR to adjust their messaging from cold outreach to the partner case? But all these have the same question. So you're looking at the intersection of data here, and you've given different approaches depending on the segment, the industry, or the scope, the co-sales motion, where they are in the funnel. But they're really, in the heart of it, my understanding is there was a process you took to, after you saw the data, so to talk to their team. So once you saw the intersection, what would be like a 30, 60, 90 on a human level, team to team, to start going, okay, here's the data, here's how we're going to start developing our learnings about this. Obviously you got to start coordinating, learning, getting collateral. What is the best practice to start turning the sea of options into a plan to make the communication work?
I mean, you mean educating your sales team on why we have built this partnership and what's the kind of
you have to develop, is it going to be a marketing automation campaign? Is it going to be a co-selling campaign? It just depends on the customer motion, but you have to you see the data, you see the data here. Okay, but then there's the next steps, what do I do with it? And you gave some options, but how do you start working down the path? What are you looking for?
So again, obviously providing examples, I can't tell for all organizations, they have different processes. I think the more aligned with the existing processes it can be, the better. So my recommendation, and again, I don't want to kind of not answer the question, but it's, if your strategy in terms of lead gen, in terms of lead gen process, of SDR process is to do cold calling activities, then the go-to process for me is to assign that list to SDR and to have them, start session. And potentially what you can also do is provide, very quick blurb or a very quick demo flow on, okay, you're going to start calling companies that are working with partner A or partner B. Don't tell that you're calling on behalf of the partner, obviously, but let them know that we have added value, right? The joint value proposition is great. So I would come up with a very short pitch, something that you can reuse in your demo, not changing entirely the demo flow, but just slightly tweaking it so that it feels more personal, and the perceived value from the prospect when you get on the phone with them improves. If your process, and we see more and more companies doing that, if your process is putting all your leads through ABM or marketing automation campaign, start thinking about what can be added to the email. Like it's sometimes it can be just a couple of words or just a small tweak in the value prop, right? But A, target this account first, and B, slightly change the messaging just to demonstrate the value. In sales, it's always about the value. It's not about name dropping or whatever. It's what's the added value. So, and again, that's why talking to the salespeople and understanding how they pitch the product and the value of your product, and how any partnership can add value, then I think that's the most important thing to do every step of the way.
Well, that's like, I think one of the things, you can just ask your partner team, the two partner teams can coordinate what is the value prop, and then send that down to the sales teams. Like, here's what you should be working with. Like, because the sales teams, they're busy, like they don't know. Like, so
yeah,
you package it up for them.
But again, I mean, it has to be digestible, right? So the one thing I would be super kind of careful about is start sending, the typical thing I'm saying is, okay, I'm receiving this deck or this, white paper or whatever on why this integration is great, for instance. And it's literally a 10 pages, document. And if I'm thinking like a sales guy, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to read that. Yeah, I'm not going to read that. I'm simply gonna, keep on doing what I'm doing, and keep calling and keep working on my opportunities. But if I have a way, like just an email template, one of my opportunity, the prospect went dark. The partnership team realized that, they work with partner A or B. Here is the quick follow-up you can send, right? Like 3 lines, literally, showing the value and saying that, potentially it could be cool, or quick video, like 1 minute video that you can send to your prospect with, showing the value of the integrated products. So something that you can consume, integrate in the way you work, without disrupting it. And that not only the salesperson, but also the prospect at the other side of the line can easily consume. Because remember, when you send something to anyone, when you're trying to sell, if you send a deck, just like the one I'm going to sharing with like 20 slides, you usually don't close your deal, right? That's not how you get the deal done. It's by really understanding the key value proposition, sometimes something very simple that's going to move the needle in the right direction. So we need to think the same way.
I mean, in my experience, the email you send to the salespeople can only be twice as long as the email they're going to send to our customer. Like that's all you got, because they're going to digest whatever you take. One thing that you're bouncing around, but I think would be useful, is how do you tell the customer that I know that you're working with a partner? Like, how do you tell them that you got that information in a way that they don't feel awkward about it?
Look, so that's not something I necessarily recommend. I don't think, given the number I showed before, right, the fact that they're already working with the partner qualifies them better, right? So I would absolutely not recommend, except if you have an official partnership and then it's clearly stated to any customers that there's going to be commercial synergy, which definitely happen in some cases. But when you know that going after your partner customers is positive, then you can be a little bit more subtle than calling them and saying, hey, I know you work with Appine, and we happen to have a great relationship, and they told me everything I have to know about you. That's obviously not the right process. And I think that's where the suddenness is in the value prop, in the messaging, in the demo flow. Quite frankly, if you don't say anything, you get on the phone and you give your demo, and in the demo flow, you show the integration between the two products, then you don't have to say that right? They will tell you. The prospect will tell you. And it's even better because it's a discovery phase. It's how you kind of get to really the bottom of potentially their problem, and you answer that. So I would say this is something we need to be very careful of, because there are a bunch of potentially security and compliance issues that we need to to make sure that we don't break. One, B, this is not necessarily a smart sales move to use that information very directly, and C, we now have the data to support that. You don't even need to behave that way.
Yeah, a couple things. First, just on a security thing, because there's no PI at all in your platform,
Yeah.
there's no problem. You can talk about companies with your partners all day long, and that's fine. That's not private data um, under GDPR, so I wouldn't worry about that. Anyone, that's what Sharework's big advantage is, like that's already taken. There's no possible way around that. Uh, but the interesting thing we also is, why don't you just ask your partner to make an intro? That's another option you can do as well if you want to like specifically call it out.
Absolutely, but it's a biggest ask, right? So
Yes.
this is not something, except if you do it, at scale on your side as well, and you intro them, or if you have some special kind of arrangements to compensate the partner. This is kind of the, obviously getting an intro and a warm intro and a referral from a partner is the best thing to get, but I don't think it's scalable to the extent that it actually impacts the top line of a company significantly, right? So what we are trying to do is also provide a way to make it scalable, right? When will we, only when we'll see partnership team influencing or sourcing, 10, 15, 20, 25% on average of a company's company deal flow and pipeline, then that's where I think we can say partnership is kind of the equivalent of marketing or other function. And that's really what we are trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point around automation. That's the whole point of it. And your point around, now that you know the customer is interested or has this in their stack, like Francois Grenier asked, like, what can you also see if what they're already bought as a customer, so start mapping their stack out, because it might be a Salesforce or HubSpot customer. And you showed that actually on one of your screens. You have all the, you can show that as well. Then you can just be more focused when you're talking to customers, because customers hate telling you stuff you already know, and you just get to the point. It's actually a
Yeah.
good point in the messaging.
Yeah, and something I didn't mention, but actually, all this data is meant to be, sent back and consumed in CRM and in other places. I mean, the point is put it at work, right? And provide information. And I think we all have a variety of tools to enrich the data sitting in CRMs, from Clearbit to others. There are a bunch of tools to know the technologies that are using by any companies in the world. So it's a little bit similar, except that on top of it, it provides additional information, because this information comes from your trusted partners and an ecosystem you can leverage, you can trust, you can rely on. You actually have good stories to tell. And it's not just raw data that you can use, from time to time. This is really something that can be an integral part of your sales process.
Marius Lefloche asks, I think, a really important question. One of the biggest things that my bosses have always been mad about, because I worked for companies that were anchors, like FreshBooks, like we just had more customers. Like, how do you handle the reciprocity so it's fair? Like, I'm pulling more weight than you are because I'm bigger than you.
Yeah.
And does your tool actually help manage like how much data you're sharing back and forth?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's obviously I didn't show all the details, but you have a bunch of ways to limit what's available, to kind of make it balanced. So to share only the same number of prospects or whatever. So you have a bunch of tools to customize what's going to be shared. So the tricky part with kind of having the exact same number, you mentioned this example, I think it was FreshBook, asking for 10 leads to give 10 or whatever the process was. The problem is that sometimes you, taking back my example, so the HR tech company I partner up with, on average, my contract was 25K, his was 250, right? So every time I provided help on an account, then actually he could help me on 10. And in terms of revenue wise, it was still balanced, right? So it's a little bit trickier than just thinking about the amount of lead or accounts you're going to be sharing. So that's why we also introduce a revenue impact and a revenue overlap, if you will. How much pipeline can I have and do I have at the moment on my partner customer base, for instance, because that's also super relevant. And we often see organizations that are partnering and that have definitely not the same ACV and even the same time of set processes. So that's something I think you need to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think this is the value of having a tool is that you can, if it's not observable, it's not measurable. If it's not measurable, it's not controllable. But we're all doing it like on the phone or at the bar with our partners. Like, hey, I'm working with this person and that person, and horse trading that way.
Yeah.
It's not systematized and automated and controllable and measurable. And if you're also, and also from like a compliance point of view, you can't control
Yeah.
it and make sure that everything's above board. But once it's in the tool, everything is manageable, controllable, measurable, automatable, and therefore scalable, because then you can go to the next system. I think that, to me, that's the most interesting thing about this new category of tools. It's really like partnership automation. It's amazing where we're going.
Frankly, and obviously I'm 100% biased on this, but when we realized that there were at the intersection of spreadsheet and informal discussion, actual impact on the top line, and compliance and security issues, in the middle, you had pretty much nothing in terms of tooling. It's a good combination for a SaaS tool. I come from HR. If you think about payroll and many other things, like when there is a combination of all of that, strong upside, informal processes being run, and compliance risk, then it's usually a good recipe for SaaS application.
Plus, I love it as partnership people whenever we can take a tool out of our corp dev friends, because they've been using this for M&A and data escrow for ages. And I look over the side, corp dev is like partnerships. We're like cousins. And whenever I take one of their
interesting
tools,
story. We had 2 users that got acquired by other users. They were connected. So already 2 acquisitions. So I don't know how we contributed. And I know of 2 pretty large companies that onboarded their corp dev team as well, because that's obviously one of the components of partnership that we haven't touched on, but and I expand that myself. But
this is a real thing. I mean, like that. I don't know if people know, but this category is actually a translation from M&A, and it's critical in order to get it's a future story of your company. And now that the partner team can be part of that, it's another great opportunity for us as partnership leaders to help put wins and feathers in our cap in our careers to help that.
I think the consulting firm, post acquisition by SAP, the consulting firm, the consulting fees for doing the account mapping activity and building the business case, it was probably north of 300K. And what they did effectively was taking our Salesforce instance, SAP's, and they built some projections on the potential synergies, and we paid them 300K for that. It happens every day.
For a Perl script with an MD5 hash, and it's interesting. But but this is what we do as partnership team. We're trying to manage intersections between companies, navigate all these issues, and find the opportunities. I really appreciate your story, that you lived through it on so many angles of it, and then you just went through the agony and pain of building a company and make it easier.
It's awful, right? No, it's the worst, but we love it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love it too, because this is what I'm doing too with that client. Yes. So, high five to fellow vendors and now former partnership leaders turned into vendors. So, Simon, thank you so much for making the time. I know people have a lot of questions for you, but you're in the CSA Slack, as well as Taylor Martin, who's also at your team. And so I know there's a lot in here. We're going to share the deck with everyone afterwards as well. And so I think they can follow up with you with more questions, because there's a lot of depth here. And I think there's a lot of questions because people are still learning this relatively new idea. And thank you for making the time to tell us.
Yeah.